What if everything you believed about finding your place in the world was wrong? What if the very moment you felt most lost, most abandoned, was precisely when your true destiny began to unfold? In the vast, unforgiving expanse of the American West, where survival was a daily battle and loneliness a constant companion, an impossible story of connection was about to be written. Imagine for a moment the year 1878. The winds whispered across the plains, carrying tales of hardship and fleeting hope. Far from civilization, a lone Comanche warrior, known as Talaco, rode with a quiet dignity, his spirit as untamed as the land itself. He sought nothing more than peace, a solitary existence away from the encroaching world. But the universe, it seemed, had other plans for him. Talaco was not like other warriors his age. He carried a quiet intensity, a wisdom beyond his years etched into his observant eyes. While others reveled in the thrill of the hunt or the glory of battle, Talaco found solace in the solitude of the plains, often riding far from his village, seeking a deeper understanding of the world around him. He was a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes, earning him respect among his people, though he rarely sought it. His heart, however, often felt a loneliness that even the wide, open spaces could not fill. He longed for a connection, a shared spirit that seemed to elude him in the stoic world of the Comanche. One sweltering afternoon, as the sun beat down relentlessly, baking the very air, Talaco was tracking a herd of buffalo, their dust rising like a distant storm cloud. He had ridden for hours, the familiar scent of sage and dry grass filling his nostrils. His keen eyes, trained since childhood to spot the smallest disturbance, suddenly caught something out of place. Not a buffalo, not a coyote, but a stark, unnatural silhouette against the endless horizon. It was a fence, crudely constructed, stretching across land that should have been wild and untouched. A prickle of unease ran down Talaco's spine. Fences meant settlers, and settlers often meant trouble. He approached with caution, his hand resting instinctively on the hilt of his knife. As he drew closer, the silhouette resolved into a horrifying tableau. Bound to one of the rough-hewn posts, her hands tied above her head, was a young woman. Her dress was torn, her face streaked with dirt and tears, and her eyes, though clouded with fear, held a spark of defiance. She looked no older than 18, a fragile bloom in a harsh wilderness. Talaco's heart, usually a steady drum, quickened. This was not the way of his people. No Comanche warrior would ever treat a woman with such cruelty. A wave of protectiveness, foreign yet powerful, washed over him. He dismounted slowly, his movements deliberate, trying not to startle her further. The girl flinched, her eyes widening as she saw him, a tall, silent figure in buckskin, a warrior of the plains. Fear, raw and palpable, emanated from her. Yet, beneath it, Talaco sensed a resilience, a flicker of hope that had not yet been extinguished. This encounter, so unexpected, would forever alter the course of Talaco's solitary life. The vast expanse of the Texas frontier, a land of endless sky and sun-baked earth, held secrets in its silent canyons. It whispered them across the prairie winds, a place where survival was a daily struggle, where the line between life and death was as thin as a thread. The unexpected could arrive on any horizon. For Talaco, the land was both his home and his teacher. He knew its rhythms, its dangers, and its sparse blessings. As he drew closer, the details became horrifyingly clear. Her hands were bound tightly, the ropes biting into her wrists, and her ankles were similarly secured, leaving her utterly helpless. Her dress, once perhaps a vibrant color, was now torn and stained, clinging to her emaciated frame. Her skin, exposed to the relentless sun, was burned and cracked, her lips parched and swollen. She was barely conscious, her shallow breaths barely stirring the dust around her. A wave of profound anger washed over Talaco. Who could do such a thing? What kind of monster would leave a human being to suffer such a slow, agonizing death? He dismounted swiftly, his movements fluid and purposeful. He approached her cautiously, his eyes scanning the desolate landscape for any sign of those responsible. The silence was absolute, broken only by the whisper of the wind and the ragged gasps of the young woman. He knelt before her, his hand reaching for the ropes. Her eyes, clouded with pain and fear, fluttered open, revealing a startling blue against her dirt-streaked face. There was a flicker of terror, then a spark of something else, a fragile hope. Talako began to work quickly, his strong fingers expertly untying the knots that held her captive. He spoke to her in a low, soothing voice, a mix of Comanche and broken English, assuring her that she was safe, that he meant her no harm. He offered her water from his canteen, holding it to her lips as she drank greedily, her throat working to swallow the life-giving liquid. Her body trembled with exhaustion and shock, but as the water revived her, a faint color returned to her cheeks. Talako felt a strange pull, an undeniable connection to this fragile being he had found. Her vulnerability stirred something within him, a protective instinct he hadn't known he possessed. He knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his bones, that he could not leave her. This was not just a rescue. It was a profound turning point, a moment that would bind their fates together. The sun began its slow descent, painting the vast sky in hues of orange and purple, as Talako carefully untied the young woman. Her skin was raw where the ropes had chafed, and her eyes, though still clouded with fear, held a flicker of something he couldn't quite decipher. He spoke to her in his native tongue, a soft, reassuring murmur, knowing she didn't understand the words, but hoping the gentle tone would convey his intent. Her gaze, however, remained fixed on his face, a mixture of apprehension and a nascent curiosity. He offered her water from his personal canteen, a precious commodity on the parched plains. She hesitated, her hand trembling slightly as she reached for it, but the desperate thirst won out. She drank deeply, her throat working visibly, and some color returned to her pale cheeks. Talako observed her with an almost clinical detachment, yet beneath it, a profound sense of responsibility had taken root. He had found her, and now he had to protect her. There was no other path. The immediate challenge was communication. Her language was a jumble of sounds he didn't recognize, and his own words were alien to her. He tried simple gestures, pointing to himself, then to her, then to the setting sun, hoping to convey the passage of time and their need for shelter. She watched him intently, her brow furrowed in concentration, but understanding remained elusive. Yet, a fragile trust began to form between them, a silent agreement forged in the harsh crucible of the wilderness. As darkness deepened, bringing with it the chill of the desert night, Talako knew they couldn't stay exposed. He led her to a small, sheltered alcove in a rock formation he knew well, a place he often used for solitude during his long rides. He built a small, smokeless fire, carefully gathering dry brush and twigs. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on the cave walls, creating an intimate space in the vast emptiness. He offered her a portion of his dried meat and pemmican, sustenance for the journey ahead, whatever that might be. She ate sparingly, her eyes darting around the unfamiliar surroundings, but she seemed to draw comfort from the warmth of the fire and Talako's quiet presence. He sat across from her, his rifle across his lap, his senses alert to the sounds of the night. He was a guardian now, his solitary existence irrevocably altered. He wondered about her, where she came from, how she came to be bound to that fence. The questions swirled in his mind, but he knew answers would have to wait. Survival was their immediate priority. The night was long, filled with the distant howls of coyotes and the rustle of unseen creatures. Talako watched her as she finally drifted into an uneasy sleep, curled close to the fire. Her vulnerability was stark in the firelight, and a new feeling stirred within him, a tender protectiveness that resonated deep in his soul. He was Talako, a Comanche warrior, and he had found a lost soul in the wilderness. Her fate was now intertwined with his own. He would ensure her safety, no matter the cost. The following morning, Talako rose with the first blush of dawn, the cool desert air a stark contrast to the heat of the previous day. He carefully extinguished the embers of their small fire, ensuring no trace remained, a habit ingrained from years of living off the land. His gaze drifted to the young woman, still asleep, wrapped in the blanket he had offered. Her face, softened by slumber, revealed a vulnerability that tugged at something deep within him. He felt a profound sense of responsibility, a silent vow to protect this fragile life he had found. He spent the early hours scouting the immediate area, his senses heightened, his movements silent and precise. He checked for any signs of pursuit, any disturbance in the vast, empty landscape that might indicate danger. The tracks he had seen yesterday, the ones leading to her predicament, were faint but still discernible. They told a story of hurried movement, of desperation, and of a deliberate act of abandonment. Talako knew that whoever had left her bound to that fence was not someone to be trifled with. He also understood that her captors, if they were indeed such, might return to finish what they had started. Upon his return, she was awake, her eyes wide and cautious as they met his. There was still fear in them, but also a flicker of something else, perhaps curiosity or even a nascent trust. He offered her a portion of his dried meat and water, watching as she ate slowly, deliberately, as if savoring each bite. He noticed the way her hands trembled slightly, a testament to her ordeal. Talako spoke little, his presence a quiet reassurance, a steady anchor in her chaotic world. He communicated through gestures, through the silent language of shared understanding that transcended words. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the plains, Talako prepared to move. He knew they could not stay in one place for long. The wilderness, while offering refuge, also held its own perils. He had to find a safe haven, a place where she could truly recover, far from the reach of those who had wronged her. His mind raced, sifting through possibilities, weighing risks, and calculating distances. He thought of hidden springs, of secluded canyons, places known only to a few, places that offered both concealment and sustenance. He helped her onto his horse, her small frame dwarfed by the powerful animal. He mounted behind her, his arm instinctively wrapping around her to steady her as they began their journey. The silence between them was not empty, but filled with the unspoken weight of their shared predicament and the growing bond that was forming between them. Talako felt the rhythm of her breathing against his back, a fragile beat that he was now committed to safeguarding. The vastness of the prairie stretched before them, an endless canvas upon which their intertwined destinies would now unfold. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but Talako was ready. He would face whatever came for her. Talako moved with a newfound purpose, his every step imbued with the weight of his commitment. He led them away from the immediate danger, not towards his village, but to a secluded cave he had discovered years ago, a place known only to him. This was not a place of comfort, but of safety, a temporary haven where they could recover and plan their next move. The journey was slow, each mile a testament to their shared resilience. He watched over her constantly, his gaze unwavering, a silent promise in his eyes. He gathered medicinal herbs, a skill passed down through generations, and tended to her wounds with a gentleness that belied his warrior exterior. Days blurred into a quiet rhythm of healing and unspoken understanding. Talako hunted, always returning with food, ensuring her strength returned. He spoke little, but his presence was a constant reassurance, a solid anchor in her storm-tossed world. She, in turn, began to show flickers of her spirit, a tentative smile, a curious glance. They communicated not with words, but with shared glances, with the quiet comfort of presence. He taught her how to recognize the calls of distant birds, how to read the subtle shifts in the wind, small lessons that slowly reconnected her to the living world. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a profound shift occurred. Talako was tending the small fire, the flames dancing in his reflective eyes. She looked at him, truly looked at him, seeing not just a rescuer, but a man of honor, of quiet strength, of unexpected tenderness. She saw the loneliness in his eyes that mirrored her own, the longing for connection. In that moment, the chasm of their different worlds seemed to narrow, bridged by a shared vulnerability and a burgeoning trust. He pointed to himself, then to her, then to the rising sun, a gesture for a new beginning. He searched for a word, a name that would define this fragile, brave spirit he had found. He remembered a Comanche word, Alara, meaning sunbeam. He spoke it softly, Alara. Her eyes widened, a fragile smile gracing her lips as she repeated it, a sound like a whispered prayer. Alara. In that moment, she was reborn. Suddenly, the air grew still, a tension rippling through the quiet evening. Tlaco's head snapped up, his senses on high alert. The distant thud of hooves, growing steadily louder, shattered the fragile peace. Raiders. They had found them. Tlaco moved with lightning speed, pushing Alara behind a large rock, his hand instinctively going to his bow. His heart pounded, not with fear for himself, but with a fierce protectiveness for her. This was the moment he had known would come, the ultimate test of his resolve. He drew an arrow, his muscles tensed, his gaze scanning the approaching figures. There were too many of them, their war cries echoing across the plains. This was not a skirmish. This was a fight for survival. Tlaco knew he could not defeat them all, but he would buy her time. He would fight with every fiber of his being, a lone warrior against overwhelming odds, driven by a love he had only just begun to understand. This was his purpose, his destiny, to protect her, no matter the cost. His aim was true. The first raider falling before they even reached the cave entrance. Tlaco was ready. The air crackled with the sharp reports of Tlaco's rifle, each shot a testament to his unwavering resolve. He moved with a practiced grace, a blur of motion in the dim light of the cave, anticipating every move of the encroaching raiders. His heart pounded not with fear, but with a fierce determination to protect the woman who had come to mean everything to him. He remembered the first time he saw her, bound and helpless, and how his spirit had stirred with an unfamiliar protectiveness. Now, that feeling had blossomed into an unyielding love, fueling his every action. One by one, the attackers fell, their shouts turning to groans as Tlaco's defense held firm. He knew this land, knew its every shadow and echo, using the cave's natural contours to his advantage. He wasn't just fighting. He was dancing with death, a protector of life against the encroaching darkness. A large, brutish raider, fueled by desperation, lunged forward, his knife glinting menacingly. Tlaco met him head-on, his movements fluid, precise. The struggle was brief, brutal, ending with Tlaco standing victorious, his breathing heavy but his gaze clear. Silence descended, broken only by the distant calls of night creatures. Tlaco stood, surveying the scene, his senses alert for any lingering threat. The immediate danger had passed, but the echoes of the fight lingered, a stark reminder of the harsh realities of the frontier. He turned, his eyes searching for her in the shadows. Alara emerged from deeper within the cave, her face pale but her eyes shining with a mixture of eye and relief. The fear that had gripped her moments before had given way to a profound sense of safety. He walked towards her, the rifle now lowered, his warrior's stance softening. When he reached her, he gently took her hands in his touch a comforting warmth. He saw the admiration in her eyes, a reflection of the deep bond that had formed between them. He had saved her, not just from the raiders, but from a life of loneliness and uncertainty. In return, she had filled a void in his own heart he hadn't known existed. They stood there, two souls forged in the crucible of the wild, their connection deeper than any words could express. The stars began to emerge in the vast Texas sky, twinkling like distant promises. Tlaco knew their journey was far from over, but together, they would face whatever the future held. He had found his purpose, his partner, his home. He had given her a name, a place, and in doing so, he had found his own. The lonely Comanche warrior was lonely no more. He had found his destiny, not in solitude, but in shared love, under the endless, watchful sky. Tlaco watched the sun dip below the vast horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The air, once sharp with the bite of loneliness, now carried the scent of wildflowers and the quiet hum of contentment. He remembered the day he found her, an 18-year-old girl, bound and abandoned, her spirit flickering like a dying ember. He had given her a name, Elara, meaning sunbeam, and in doing so, he had found his own light. Their journey had been fraught with peril, a constant dance with the unforgiving wilderness. The lingering threat of those who had abandoned Elara, the same men who had attacked them at the cave, had continued to shadow their path. Talako, ever vigilant, had tracked their movements, understanding that true peace would only come when that danger was permanently removed. He had learned to trust again, to open his guarded heart to the fragile hope Elara represented. Elara, in turn, had blossomed under his quiet care, her laughter now echoing across the plains, a melody that filled the emptiness he had carried for so long. She had taught him that true strength lay not in solitude, but in connection, in the shared burdens and triumphs of two souls intertwined. She had shown him a world beyond the warrior's path, a world of quiet joys and shared dreams. Her resilience, once fragile, had grown into a fierce determination, a spirit as unyielding as the land itself. She learned to identify the edible plants, to track small game, to read the subtle signs of the weather, becoming a true partner in their shared existence. Her past, once a haunting shadow, slowly receded, replaced by the vibrant reality of their present and the hopeful promise of their future. The confrontation with their past came months later, not in a desperate skirmish, but in a calculated encounter. Talako, with Elara's safety as his guiding star, had led them to a remote canyon, a place where he could finally face those who sought to harm them. The conflict was swift, decisive, a testament to Talako's unwavering resolve. He had faced his demons not with the reckless abandon of his youth, but with the calculated wisdom of a man who had something precious to lose. His hands, once quick to draw a weapon, now found solace in the gentle touch of Elara's hand. The threat was gone forever. The echoes of that final battle faded, replaced by the quiet hum of the wilderness, a sound that now signified peace, not peril. They had built a life together, a small cabin nestled beside a meandering river, a sanctuary far from the chaos of the world. It wasn't a grand estate, but it was theirs, filled with the warmth of shared dreams and the promise of a peaceful future. The cabin, built from sturdy logs, had a wide porch where they would sit in the evenings, watching the stars emerge, listening to the gentle murmur of the river. Inside, Elara had brought her own touch, decorating with wildflowers and simple, hand-stitched quilts. Talako, the solitary Comanche, had found his place not in the vast, untamed wilderness, but within the gentle confines of Elara's love in the home they had created together. He learned to tend a small garden, to mend fences, to find joy in the rhythms of a settled life, always with Elara by his side. His journey, once defined by survival and isolation, had transformed into a testament to the enduring power of human connection. He had started as a man adrift, a silent observer of life, but Elara had anchored him, given him purpose. He had learned that true freedom wasn't about being alone, but about being free to love, to protect, to belong. As he looked at Elara, her eyes reflecting the dying embers of the sunset, he knew he had found more than just a companion. He had found his home, his heart, his forever. Their story was a whisper on the wind, a testament to love found in the most unexpected places, a sunbeam breaking through the darkest storm, illuminating a path to a shared destiny.